longer. This one hadith is equivalent to 4 hadith. We will suffice in one hadith today, inshallah. وعن أبي هريرة رضي الله تعالى عنه عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال: لم يتكلم في المهد إلا 3: عيسى بن مريم وصاحب جريج. وكان جريج رجلا عابدا فاتخذ صومعة فكان فيها فأتته أمه وهو يصلي فقالت: يا جريج. فقال: يا رب أمي وصلاتي. فأقبل على صلاته فانصرفت. فلما كان من الغد أتته وهو يصلي فقالت: يا جريج. فقال: أي رب أمي وصلاتي. فأقبل على صلاته. فلما كان من الغد أتته وهو يصلي فقالت: يا جريج. فقال: أي ربي أمي وصلاتي. فأقبل على صلاته. فقالت: اللهم لا تمته حتى ينظر إلى وجوه المومسات. So because the hadith is long, I'll finally pass by part, inshallah. From the authority of Abu Hurairah, may Allah be pleased with him, he reports from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says that only 3 people, they spoke in the cradle. Only 3 babies spoke in the cradle. One was Jesus, son of Mary, Isa ibn Maryam. And the second person is the companion of Jurayj. And then later on we'll be reading a third person that the Prophet also mentioned without any mentioning of the person's name. We'll come to the third person later. So the Prophet said that 3 babies, they spoke in cradle. As you all know, babies, they don't speak in cradle. Babies, they speak after they reach the age of 2 or 3. But this is, subhanAllah, from the miraculous nature of this ummah that the Prophet was telling us that Allah made 3 babies speak. And all of the 3, there was many reason and hikmah and wisdom behind it. One was Isa ibn Maryam, you all know, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to make Isa al-Islam one of the signs, ayah min ayatillah, signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to take away all the hurtful questions that people will ask regarding Mary, because she was known for her chastity, and people will say that, most likely you committed zina, or Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wanted to take this away from Maryam. So when she came to Banu Israel, and they said, Mary, how come you're carrying a baby? فَأَشَارَتْ إِلَيْهِ. She only pointed towards the baby. They said, قَالُوا كَيْفَ نُكَلِّمُ مَنْ كَانَ فِي الْمَهْدِ صَبِيًّا. How can we speak to a baby in cradle? And Isa alayhi salam, although he was a baby, قَالَ إِنِّي عَبْدُ اللَّهِ. He said, he raised his head, faced the crowd, and he said, I am the servant of Allah. This was the first word that came out from the mouth of Isa alayhi salam, Abdullah, not Ibnullah, as the Christians they claim. He said, I'm Abdullah, I am the servant of Allah. So Isa alayhi salam. The second person is Jurayj. The companion of Jurayj means a boy, a baby at the time of Jurayj. Then the Prophet of Allah is narrating now, telling us the story. That means this is very authentic. And as you can see, that Imam Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, the author of this book, he gives reference that this is actually, the hadith is sahih. And he mentioned that the hadith is mentioned, muttafaqun alayh, mentioned by Imam Bukhari al-Muslim. Imam Bukhari al-Muslim mentioned this. The Prophet of Allah is narrating now. He said, Jurayj was a very pious man. He made a temple and he used to go there in seclusion and used to worship. One day his mother came whilst he was praying. And she said, oh Jurayj. The mother said, oh Jurayj. He said, oh my Lord, what do I do? I am in prayer and my mother is calling. Who do I respond to? Jurayj is waiting for a miracle to happen, for Allah to, inspire him or something. Yes? And then he continued, because he never get any sort of inspiration, so he continued praying. And then the mother waited and waited, and she went back. The next day, the mother again returned while Jurayj was praying. And she said, oh Jurayj. He said, oh my Lord, what do I do? My mother is calling me, and I'm in my prayer. And then he continued praying. The third day, the mother came again while she was praying. And she said, oh Jurayj. He said, oh my Lord, what do I do? I have my mother and I am in my prayer. And he continued praying. Then the mother, she said, oh Allah, do not give him death until he sees the faces of the prostitute women. Don't give him death until he sees the faces of prostitutes. So let's stop up to here. So from this we learn the Prophet of Allah is telling us a story that none of us know. Because no companion, they know the story. Only, everybody knows about Isa ibn Maryam because it's in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that Isa ibn Maryam. And those of you who are praying Salah behind me, all my Maghrib Salah from the beginning of December, I'm only reading about Isa ibn Maryam, if you are noticing. So all of his biographies in front of you now. Everybody knows about Isa ibn Maryam because the Prophet should recite Salah and everybody stood there. But nobody knows about Jurayj. So far we found out that he was praying, he was a pious person, he didn't do anything wrong, is to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in seclusion, is to be away from everybody else. But his mother was angry at him because he was not responding to the mother. And at the end she cursed him. The curse is not that he's going to commit zina. The curse is only that let him see the face of a prostitute. This is dangerous. I'll come back to this inshallah ta'ala because sometimes we don't realize. Looking at the face of a prostitute is a sin. I don't think people think like that. Just let that sink in. I'll come back to it again. Looking at a face, if someone looks at a face of a prostitute, of a woman who sells her body, that itself is a sin. The Prophet of Allah is reporting that the mother cursed saying that, "Oh Allah, make my son see the face of an evil woman." A woman who sells her body. Now think. The most widespread sin in our community is people watching pornography. Not only in UK, this is a worldwide problem. And here, she didn't say, "Oh Allah, make my son commit a zina." She said, "Oh Allah, let him just see the face of a woman who sells her body," because that itself is a sinful thing. And the Prophet of Allah is approving this. Let everybody think about this. We think that this is not a sinful thing. Looking at a promiscuous woman, looking at a woman who sells her body is a sinful act. Looking at a man of bid'ah is also a sinful thing to do. We'll come back to it later on anyway. Let alone someone who sells her body. Then, فَتَذَاكَرَ بَنُو إِسْرَائِيلَ جُرَيْجًا وَعِبَادَتَهُ وَكَانَتْ امْرَأَةٌ بَغْيٌ يتمثل بحسنها فقالت إن شئتم لأفتننه فتعرض له فلم يلتفت إليها. Then it is the Prophet ﷺ went on mentioning the hadith saying that Banu Israel they should talk to one another about Jurayj and how he used to worship Allah Azza wa Jal. There was a woman, she was known to be a woman of a prostitute. There was a prostitute in Banu Israel. She was very beautiful. People used to give an example of her beauty. She said that, "Do you know what? If you want, I could make him commit zina. I could lead him to fitna." So she showed herself in front of Jurayj, but Jurayj gave no attention to her. Then, later on, she went to a nearby area. فَأَتَتْ رَاعِيًا كان يأوي إلى صومعته فأمكنته من نفسها فوقع عليها فحملت فلما ولدت قالت هو من جريج. Then the same lady, the prostitute, she went to a shepherd and she committed zina with him. She gave herself to him and they had sexual intercourse and she became pregnant. Later on, when she gave birth, she told everybody in the community that this baby is the baby of Jurayj. She lied. Yeah, she lied, she said that Jurayj has committed, everybody knows Jurayj didn't do anything like that, but this is what happened. فأتوه فاستنزلوه وهدموا صومعته وجعلوا يضربونه فقال ما شأنكم؟ قالوا زنيت بهذه البغي فولدت منه قال أين الصبي؟ فجاءوا به فقال دعوني حتى أصلي فصلى فلما انصرف أتى الصبي فطعن في بطنه وقال يا غلام من أبوه؟ قال فلان الراعي فأقبلوا على جريج يقبلونه ويتمسحون به وقالوا نبني لك صومعتك من ذهب قال لا أعيدوها من طين كما كانت ففعلوا. The story continues. This news spread in the community that Jurayj, he committed zina, although we know that he didn't commit zina, and that the baby is actually Jurayj's son. They all came to the temple and they told Jurayj to come down. They brought him down and they beat him up. They were hitting him and they broke his temple as well, where he used to seclude himself in worshipping Allah. He said, "Why are you guys hitting me? Why did you break my temple? What's going on here?" They said, "You have committed adultery. You have committed a fornication, with this lady." and this baby is yours. He said, where is the baby? He said, the baby is over there. He said, bring the baby to me. So they brought the baby to him. He said, let me pray. Then he started praying. After he finished his prayer, then he pinched the baby and said, baby, talk and tell me, who is your father? Then the baby spoke in front of everybody and said, it is not you, it is so and so the shepherd. It is not you, it is that shepherd. And then everybody, when they realized the baby spoke so eloquently, so clearly, they started to kiss Jurayj and hug him and asking him for forgiveness. And they started touching his body. And they saying, oh, we are so sorry. We're going to make a temple now for you of pure gold. He said, no. Leave the gold to yourself. Just make it with mud the way it was before. Then they rebuilt a temple for him. So this is the second person now. Isa was the baby who spoke, and this is the story of Jurayj. Then the Prophet Allah mentioned the third baby now. وبين صبي يرضع من أمه فمر رجل راكب على دابة فارهة وشارة حسنة فقالت أمه اللهم اجعل ابني مثل هذا فترك الثدي وأقبل إليه فنظر إليه فقال اللهم لا تجعلني مثله ثم أقبل على ثديه فجعل يرضع فكأني أنظر إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو يحكي ارتضاعه بأصبعه السبابة في فيه فجعل يمصها ثم قال ومروا بجارية وهم يضربونها ويقولون زنيت صرخت وهي تقول حسبي الله هو نعم الوكيل فقالت أمه اللهم لا تجعل ابني مثلها فترك الرضاع ونظر إليها فقال اللهم اجعلني مثلها فهنالك تراجع الحديث. So the third baby is the Prophet mentioned. There was another baby. Well, he was actually getting breastfed by his mother. A person passed by riding a camel or a donkey, and it was very beautiful, and he was very handsome. His riding and the rider both were very good looking. So the mother said, "Oh Allah, make my son like this handsome man." So he stopped suckling, and he looked at the person, and she said, "Oh Allah, do not make me like this person." And then he continued breastfeeding. And then, whilst he was breastfeeding again for the second time, the narrator, he says that, subhanallah, when the Prophet ﷺ narrated the story to us, he put his finger, this is called the sababa in Arabic, he put the finger into his mouth, and the Prophet ﷺ was showing us, the Prophet ﷺ was basically demonstrating, illustrating how the baby went back to breastfeeding. Then he said that, then later on, a young lady was passing by, and the people were laughing at her, ridiculing her, and pushing her, and shoving her, and hitting her. And they said that this is a woman who committed zina, and she has done this sin and that sin. She has done the stealing as well. And she said, Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. Allah is sufficient for me, and is the best of all protector. The mother said, "Oh Allah, do not make my son like this woman." And he stopped suckling, and he said, "Oh Allah, make me like this woman." Then the mother and the baby, they had started to talk. The Prophet narrated, فَهُنَالِكَ تَرَاجَعَ الْحَدِيث. The baby and the mother, they started exchanging words. She said that, "I saw a handsome person, and he looks good, he was wearing good clothes, and he had a very wonderful, good-looking, beautiful riding animal. That's why I said, oh Allah, I want my son to be like this person." And then I saw another lady, people were ridiculing and mocking her. So I said, "Oh Allah, don't make my child like this. What have I done wrong for you to say, don't make me like him, but make me like her? Why?" He said, "Mother, inna dhalika rajul jabbar." You see, mother, the very first person that you wanted me to be like him, he's a tyrant person. He looks good, he's a good riding animal, he wears good clothes, but his whole life is the dhulm to people, he's an oppressor. Why do you want your son to be like a tyrant? Allah hates the tyrant. Anybody does dhulm, Allah humiliates them. In just a moment of time. We just want everything very quickly. We want, Netanyahu, for example, we want to see him humiliated straight away. It's already started. The whole world hates him. What more do you want? I mean, does anybody would like to live a life like Netanyahu? Nobody. He's a baby killer. Everybody knows this. So humiliation already started. And it's going to get worse. But we need to have a bit of sabr. Because Allah mentioned this in the Quran about Qarun and Fir'aun and many others. Nobody named the child Fir'aun and Qarun. Similar what happened. I don't want to be like him, mother. And then you mentioned about this lady. Yes, people were ridiculing, but do you know something? Let them mock. But this young girl, she believes in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and she has done nothing. It is a misunderstanding of the community. She's very close to Allah, and I want to grow up to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the hadith comes to an end, and Imam Nawawi rahimahullah ta'ala, he says, this hadith is agreed upon, mentioned by Imam Bukhari and Imam Muslim and others. Subhanallah, one of the things that, so few lessons that we learn from the hadith. First is that, okay, if you're in the salah, if your mother calls you, because remember he was in the prayer, the mother calls you, then our scholar, they said that this is happening in Banu Israel time. This is the Sharia of the people before us. In our time, if you're praying your first salah and your mother calls you, and if you're praying alone, then quickly finish your prayer. Don't break the prayer. Finish your prayer quickly. If you're planning to read Surah Yasin, then no. Read 3 or 4 verses, because this is a matter that you need to respond to. If it's a Nawafil Salah, then, and you think your mother is in danger, for example, break it. You can pray Nawafil Salah again. If you pray Nafil Salah and you break it, then you have to pray again. Remember, to pray Nafil Salah is Nafil. To pray Sunnah is Sunnah. But if you break it, Allah said, لَا تُبْطِلُوا أَعْمَالَكُمْ. Don't nullify your actions. If you start something, you finish it. So you could do it later on, inshallah, not a problem. So if it's first Salah, then try to finish your first Salah, unless it's an emergency. For example, that someone has fallen, there's nobody in the house, then you go. So this is what we learn. So inshallah, if it's fourth prayer, then you finish your fourth prayer, unless it's an emergency, then you break it. And if it's Nafil Salah, then straight away break it. Respond to your mother, see if she's okay, and then you continue and restart your prayer. So this is one of the things that we learn, inshallah. Secondly, we learn also that, subhanAllah, karama, miracles could happen from non-prophets as well. But if the miracles happen from non-prophets, it's a technical thing. We say that's not mu'jiza, that is karama. And it could happen as well. Sometimes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make this kind of thing occur to teach us lesson. We also learn the virtues of looking after parents, subhanAllah. That even in prayer, Allah wants us to respond to our mothers and fathers. So subhanAllah, if you have a mother, brothers, if you still have mother, any of you here, hug your mother, look after her, because serving your mother, serving your father, is a deed that is loved by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sometimes we get very angry at our elders, Our teacher is here, alhamdulillah, we are doing his khidmah. Shaikh Bashir is, subhanAllah, 86 years of age, and he needs people to look after him. But it's just, I always tell my other brothers who are there, that don't feel that you're doing any favor to him. He doesn't need that. It's actually something that we should do as students. Similarly, as children, we should. Don't think that you're doing favors to your father and mother, because we were babies. We could not walk around. We are not like Banu Israel who spoke in cradle. We didn't know how to talk, and we were annoying probably. But none of our parents complained. They never said that he never let me sleep or she never let me sleep. Our parents loved us, and now we're grown men and we have our own. So don't get upset with your parents. Parents, even in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, فَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمَا أُفْ. Don't even say uff to them. وَلَا تَنْهَرْهُمَا. Don't repel them. وَقُلْ لَهُمَا قَوْلًا كَرِيمًا. Say words gently and nice thing to them. So inshallah, this is very important as well. And this is something that the Prophet of Allah is teaching us, that be nice to your parents. Asma radiallahu ta'ala, she said, my mother is a mushrika. Should I also be nice to her as well? She's an idol worshipper. The Prophet said, yes, be nice to her. Cook for her. Look after her. You don't follow her shirk, but you serve her, because she is your mother. This is the beauty of our religion, that we have to always be nice to people who have been nice to us. We also learn something, subhanAllah. Junayd was a very pious man. He never committed any sins, everybody. He made one technical mistake with his mother issue, but he hasn't committed any sins. But subhanAllah, he was tested. Imagine the humiliation that he faced. People beat him up. They broke his temple. And then he became very popular in the whole community that he committed zina. This is a humiliation for him. So what the Prophet was teaching us, that as long as you have Iman and Islam, you will be tested. Something will happen to you. Could be an illness, could be something that, something that maybe your strength is taken away. Maybe that's certain things that you could do, you can't do it now. We will go through this, and this is something that will happen to all of us. But we have to be like Junayd. Do sabr. Don't say, well, now why me, God? I worship you for 30 years. Don't do that. This is what Shaitan wants. Remember, this is what Shaitan wants. Why me? Yeah? I've been worshiping. This is what Shaitan said to Allah. Allah, why are you telling me to prostrate in front of Adam? I've been worshiping you for such a long time. Tell him to come to me. Astaghfirullah. Some people, they worship Allah and they think they're doing favors to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No. Allah has done favors to us by giving us the tawfiq to prostrate in front of Him. Don't ever think like this. Alhamdulillah, I think I'm the most pious person in my area because I pray my salah. Don't ever do that. Always thank Allah for giving us the tawfiq to pray. This is very important because Jurayj, he didn't say, oh Allah, why are you doing this to me? He tried his very best. He said, let me go back to Allah, repent to Allah. And then he said, oh Allah, make this baby talk. And Allah made the baby talk. So this is what we learn as well. We also learn, honorable brothers and sisters, is that we should always stay in the company of the righteous people. Because look what the mother didn't say, oh Allah, make my son commit zina. Make my son see the face of a woman who is known to be a prostitute. Yeah? Because even for a few seconds, because the lady did come to him and said, look, commit zina with me. He said no. But they did exchange words here. That itself is a sinful thing. That itself is a sinful thing to do. But he could repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But even momentarily, the exchange of words, because of that, what happened, he became unpopular in his whole community, that he probably had something to do with this. So that's why our scholars, they say that stay in keep the righteous company. Because people will talk about you. Say, oh, have you seen that person? He hangs around with him. Have you seen that person? She hangs around with him, etc., etc. People will talk about you. Don't let people talk about you. Stay in the righteous company, good company. People who are known to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Remember, you don't want to be guilty by association. It's also a crime as well. Okay, then you can't say, oh, you could also. So be very careful who you hang around with. This is very important as well. And the one thing that I said in the very beginning, the mother said, oh Allah, let him see the face of a prostitute woman. And there are prostitute women's faces are everywhere in UK, in the signboard, in the billboards, in the back of the bus, in the train and everything like that. We have to control our eyes. If we do not look after our eyes, how are you expecting to see Allah with the same eyes? How are you expecting to see Rasulullah with the same eyes? These eyes, if you don't look after it, it will be thrown into the fire of Jahannam until it's purified, then it will be back allowed to come into Jannah, then to see Allah and His Rasul. It's a dangerous sin. Looking at haram, looking at women is a haram, it's an evil deed. It takes away the nur of all ibadah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us from this horrible sin. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to worship Him, inshaAllah. Ameen. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله سبحانه وتعالى.